welcome to Made in New Zealand, where we talk to artists, musicians, writers. I'm Lou from Wardini Books, and this is Annemarie Rawson. And Annemarie has written this absolutely fantastic book that I read over the weekend and loved, My French Platter, which is about her adventures going on her dream job to France. But first of all, who are you? Who's Annemarie Rawson?
Oh, I'm just a very ordinary New Zealander, now in later life, let's say. And started off as a very homesick child who would hardly leave home to an adult who absolutely loves travel. But that always has to be encounters with people along the way, because people to me are your connections to life. So yeah, that's me really. I love art galleries, I love reading, cuisine, all sorts. So I'm just a multi-mixed bag, but a very ordinary New Zealander at heart.
I think you're a very friendly New Zealander. So it doesn't surprise me at all that it's the connections with people that are what motivates you, and we'll get onto that more throughout the book. But so you and your husband go off to, you're at a stage in life where, the children are grown and your youngest was just off at uni?
Yes,
is that right?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, well, we want an adventure. So what was behind that yearning for the French adventure?
Well, I think all our travels, somehow France was always in the loop when we'd been going away. And there was just something that grabbed me about France. And I mean, as much as the cities are glorious and no one can not fall in love with Paris, and the other main cities are perfectly beautiful, history, architecture, the beautiful gardens and everything. But you just can't beat the French countryside, and the French people in the countryside are just delightful. Never once were we ever treated badly or rudely, dismissed because the language wasn't quite there. But I think that sense of, I felt a sense of place there, but maybe it helped with my grandmother. She's got French blood in her. And I just felt really at home. It's a beautiful country, full stop. And yeah, it just grabbed me. I can't give you more than that, but it just grabbed me.
That's okay. So had you done anything like that before?
Never.
No.
Never. I'd gone to London as a young girl of 23, but only had 6 months away for one reason and another, and part of that was homesickness as well. So I hadn't really done any major exploring or anything, and certainly never worked away like that. And it was a whole new experience, that's for sure. But that gave us the yearning once we'd been travelling. Yeah. And I just said to Steve, why don't we try and live here? Why don't we try and get back? And Steve was busy, he just says, yeah, okay. Good idea, but he was busy with his work and everything. So I just kept investigating online, and there's a couple of things, there's called the Gumtree advertises anything and everything, and so there's work throughout Europe as well. So I found this particular job, and I just read it all through, and I thought, well, we love people, we keep a beautiful home, I can organise, I can cook, so why don't we go? And how hard is it to look after chickens? So we hadn't done that before, but it can't be that difficult, can it? So, I grabbed him and I said, look at this, this is us, let's go, we can do it, come on. Well, hold on, Steve's a handbrake, And he said, oh, well, I'm coming to the end of my contract, so, well, go on, just apply, see how we get on. And I don't think he actually thought it would eventuate, but it did.
But it did, in all its glory. We find out about that. So you thought you were going to look after a beautiful French country home.
Yes.
You would have your own accommodation, and, the owners, Tristan and Richard, would come. Pseudonyms, I presume?
Absolutely.
Yes. So names have been changed to protect the guilty.
Exactly. Not the innocent.
So, yeah, you're expecting this, and
Yeah.
then of course you turn up and things aren't quite as
Rosy.
rosy.
No.
Yeah, tell us about how that was.
Okay, so we'd been sent website photos, you know, for agencies so that they could then promote the property. And it looked gorgeous. And I thought, oh, you know, this is going to be easy. We just have to cook, we just have to look after people. We can arrive and just go straight into it, you know, and get started and be estate managers as it was deemed to be the job. But we arrived at dusk one evening, and it was late winter, early spring, and the house looked magnificent. It just looked so beautiful, and it was just typically French and rectangular. The shutters were this lovely mossy green, and it just looked gorgeous. So the light was on it, and I thought, oh, I can't wait. But we were absolutely knackered. And the guy that picked us up, Doug, who features heavily in the book, Doug and Siobhan, again, pseudonyms, I have to tell you.
I did wonder. Yeah.
And he took us down to the pigeonnier, which is always a part of a house, not always, but in southwest France, a pigeonnier is part of a lot of the old vineyards there, and they would keep pigeons to use the dung for the vines, and they would also keep pigeons for the meat. They would eat them.
Okay. Yeah.
Quite a delicacy in France, which I suffered the consequences of once. But anyway, it was absolutely gorgeous, and the pigeonnier was beautifully done, very rustic, but thoroughly clean and kitted out really well. It was lovely. But it wasn't until the next morning that we went exploring the house, and it was just filthy from top to bottom. And was not the expectation at all of walking in, and it being jet lagged. Don't forget, we were exhausted, jet lagged, and all the rest of it, having flown 24 hours plus just an overnighter in London. So we walked in, and the kitchen particularly was, I thought, how the hell am I going to cook in this? You know, the door was hanging off one of the ovens, and there was an absolute grime and film across the whole bench tops, you know, which were in a rustic old, what do you call it, butcher's block in the middle.
Yeah.
And it was riven with knife slices. No one had used a board, and mould was growing through that, and mould was all over the oven, the stove tops, and it was pretty horrific to encounter that and think, this is going to take weeks and weeks to clean up. And the bedrooms and the bathrooms particularly were disgusting. And in fact, I wondered when someone had last actually done them. Bearing in mind the house hadn't been let out before, this was going to be the first time with us in charge. It hadn't been like that. It had just been a family home. And to be fair, it had been closed up for the winter.
But you wouldn't expect that level of filth, I suppose,
well,
would you?
If that was me and I was an offshore owner, I think I would have employed someone to go in knowing that you were having people come in, but I think that was all part of the plot.
Okay.
In lots of ways.
You
all
were
part
that
of the
person.
plan, and
Yeah.
Steve and I were those people. Yeah, most definitely.
So you did put your marigolds on and got stuck in.
Absolutely.
That's the next part of the story. We won't spoil too much of it.
No.
But what did keep you going? Because the kitchen is very clear in my mind. When you step into it, you know, your writing is so evocative, and you're quite into interiors as well. I want to talk about
Hugely.
that because you know that's not something that I've ever been interested in. But I know, I beg your pardon. But I found myself just going, oh, okay, so there is this sort of moulding here, and there's this wallpaper, and there is this certain, you know, I could picture it all. So thank you for that education.
Oh, great.
But what did keep you going then? Because you'd expected it to be in an immaculate condition, and you found that it wasn't. So why didn't you just turn tail and come home?
Oh, gosh. First of all, we'd rented out the house for a year. Everything was in storage, and we'd spent that amount of money on flights. And there was no way, and you've got to meet my husband. He's just determined as hell, and he was the one that's, come on, let's get moving. And so we just got on with it, and luckily we had a time period before the first groups were booked. So we did have time. And what kept us going? The sun shone. It was the most beautiful area. We were able to go exploring at the end of the days that we were working when we'd had enough. The people that came to the house, the French that came to the house, the gardener, Gabriel the gardener, I love him.
Gabriel the gardener. Never just Gabriel. Yeah.
No, he was always Gabriel the gardener. Good morning, Gabriel the gardener. I couldn't help it. It was always under my breath. Yeah. But he was gorgeous. The postie, and then Siobhan and Doug, and they started us off on our little bit of social life, and we met some of their French friends and English friends as well. So that was a lovely part of us. And because Tristan wasn't there, that made it easier, but it was his overnight emails and that drove us up the wall, and we never knew where we were coming or going, because he would be with Sarah, his agent, London agent, and I don't think they ever talked, and so we just didn't know where we were a lot of the time. But then, you know, when he was at the property too, it was, let's say, difficult. I don't want to spoil it either, but it was like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Mr. Jekyll, Dr. Hyde. You just didn't know, how things were going to be, and I was always on edge after the first couple of encounters. So, but we were determined, even though we went through the roller coaster. I was ready to walk off, but Steve said no, and I think there's something about New Zealanders, and I don't know, you're English, obviously, if you've encountered it, but I think we are not ones to walk away, really. No, we can do this. We can make it right, you know. Let's prove that we're worthy of this and that we can do this. Yeah, I think that was always at the back of it, and we wanted to make it right. But it was funny because it was only Tristan that there was ever an issue with. Everyone else we just got on famously with. Yeah, guests who I'm still in touch with from there, and come and stay here, come and stay there, and they were from around the world, so it wasn't just English or anything. So, yeah.
Great. So, and there are some delightful moments. I'm thinking as you're talking, you know, the dinners on the terraces in the moonlight, and you know, just the beautiful food that I want to talk about as well. But I really loved those sort of delightfully comedic moments that you have, where I can hear your laughter in them. And just tell us about the chickens, because they've got the most amazing names.
I know.
That you gave them.
Yes, Steve helped me. But you couldn't help it. And who knew chickens had such personality?
Apparently so.
I've never had them, you know, never looked after them before, but they certainly were. So we had Maggie Hatcher. But of course, famous Maggie Thatcher. But she was the boss. She was in charge, and she used to corral the girls.
The Iron Lady.
Iron Lady, exactly. Yeah, she was great. And then we had Adele, and she was a big chook. She was lovely, and she was full-breasted and, you know, beautiful. But she used to squawk and squawk so loud, and she was great. She could really belt out the squawks, that one. And, of course, Hilda Ogden, who you will know.
Yes.
And older New Zealanders will know from Coronation Street. So she was a scrawny old thing. And, you know, but she was always miserable. I could just see she was never a happy girl, and she was always scratching in the dirt looking for that little elusive something. Who else did we have? Oh, Elle Macpherson. What a girl. She was a stunner, but she was always blimmin' well grooming. You know, she was very vain, that one. Sorry, Elle, you're not, I'm sure, but I couldn't help it. She was gorgeous. Didn't I have one more? I can't remember who the other one was. Oh, you'll just have to read the book and find out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And there are the cats too.
Yes, they were wild cats, and I think there were more there than Tristan realised. But they were living in the back of the barn and the back of beyond. but still we were told to feed them. Yeah, but I think there was an awful lot more, as I say. But they were funny too, but we did have an episode there of trying to get the vet in. Did you laugh at that?
Yeah.
With Steve, and trying to catch them, and that was impossible. But they would always try and sneak into the house with us as well.
I thought that was quite sweet,
Oh,
actually.
yeah. Well, if Steve, was out or something, I let them in. Otherwise, they weren't allowed in for the night.
And cats curled up in all corners.
I know, lovely.
Let's just talk. I'm going to swap a couple of questions around, actually, because I think I'd like to talk about that warmth and the hospitality and the food. Just made me. I was always hungry and wanting a glass of wine when I read the book.
I did wonder if people think I was a drunk because I was always having a glass of rosé.
It was only a little glass.
They were. Thanks. So what about it?
What's your connection to food, and what is it about eating together that brings people together?
Wow. How did that first start? I was trying to think about that, and I thought, well, Mum, we had nothing as children. I'm one of 7, and it was food on the table, and there was always food on the table, but Mum would always welcome in anyone and everyone, and then it was like the loaves and fishes, you had to share it out, and you only got that little portion if someone was there, but you dare not say anything. And maybe it was that, and it was always, and all of my sisters and me, we always have done that. We've always welcomed people into our homes, I think, and cooking just sort of evolved, and I don't know whether I got that from cooking shows or I'm not sure where it started, but yeah, I do enjoy cooking when I've got a kitchen, a good kitchen, and I just love... I'm not a big saucy person at all. I just love fresh ingredients, and if you can do as little to that as possible and present that, you've got a beautiful meal. And I'm not a huge sugar fan either, but a lovely tart at the end or
there's a
something.
recipe in here that I want to try.
Oh, there's some good, yeah. But I don't know if you noticed, they're quite simple recipes. Oh, there's one hugely fattening one in there.
That's the one I want to try.
Oh, and people have made it and absolutely love it. And it's got a lot in it, a lot of fat in it, but it makes so much, and you only have a small
It's the chocolate
portion.
terrine, isn't it? Yeah. So I looked at the ingredients of that and thought, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's best not to know what goes into these things.
And we had such fun because, as you will have read, my friend's cousin came to get my head around all what was in the French supermarkets. And
she's a Michelin-starred chef.
Yes, she was. And she'd cooked in boutique hotels and things. She was amazing, helping, so matter-of-fact and straightforward, but man, did we have fun trying to make that first batch of the chocolate terrine. Yeah, it was really good. But, yeah, other than that, I don't know, it's just a love of good food, I think, and quality food, and that's what I love about the Hawke's Bay. It's on your doorstep, really, isn't it? There's so much on your doorstep here. But France, of course, you've got it on your doorstep as well, or it all just was coming up through Europe as well. So you had access to beautiful, fresh food as well.
And you had a kitchen garden there, and that's something that the bosses were quite keen on, using the ingredients from the garden.
Absolutely. Don't spend a cent you don't have to, dear.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what did you grow? What were the...
all the veg. What did we have? We had peppers, tomatoes. We had raspberry canes, which were beautiful. All the herbs you could want. Gabriel the gardener was amazing, and Steve was his right-hand man, really. Lettuces, onions, leeks. I think we had peas, we had sugar snap peas. Yeah, we grew so much. Yeah, it was really good.
You mentioned the onions and like the onions drying in the sun, or there's some image that I just thought, well, that's very French.
That was the last of them that hadn't been picked there, and we just, once we cracked through the earth, we just took those out and left them out drying in the sun. Yeah, that is very French. You see that a lot. Yeah.
Strings of onions.
Yeah. And the garlic.
Yeah. So you're interested in interiors as well, because I did feel that this was just somewhere that I would like to go and like to be pampered by you.
Oh,
but the decor as well. So
in this particular book, we had to make the most of what was there, and I think just sprucing it up and bringing flowers in, the wild flowers in from the garden and things. We managed to get some lovely towels in the end and some sheets. But yeah, I do have a great love of interiors, and I think sort of since our first visit to France, travelling, my own house, you'll ask the girlfriends, I sort of set it out in a French style as well because I was so enamoured with it. So every house I've set up has always been in a French style, but I do love the English house and gardens as well. So, and that was Tristan, and Tristan's home, London home, was gorgeous for that, and just walking in, and it was just my sort of style as well. But that was very house and gardens, phalaenopsis orchids, and plus all the artwork that they had for the gallery. It was stunning.
Yeah, that was just beautiful. For your descriptions of walking into a room, you know, the bath in the middle of the room, you know, and they're looking out onto vistas while you're in the bath.
Yeah.
Yes, I could do that.
That was lovely.
So yeah, we've got about 5 minutes left. So people in the book, so Tristan obviously difficult, Sarah difficult / incompetent. Yeah, exactly. And then poor dear Richard, who's Tristan's partner, just turns up exhausted every now and again and floops around and looks at you apologetically because he clearly knows what his partner's like.
Yeah.
But then there are all these wonderful characters. So, you know, Doug and Siobhan and you and Steve, who have this wonderful relationship from what I can see in the book.
Well,
let's more stick to the book. As there are with everybody's marriage. But, you know, what have you learned about people from this particular experience?
People are people the same all around the world, and the rotten ones are only a minor part that you encounter around the world. Seriously, everyone wants the same thing. Everyone wants to be cared for, loved, nurtured. What I have learnt is don't be so damn trusting all the time, though, you know. And that was a New Zealand thing, I think, that we were very trusting. And we were a trusted lot, you know. Yeah, that's what I've learnt. And if you're going to want to go and do something like this when the world comes right, just make sure you've got your ducks lined up and you've got all the information you need, all your contracts, and exactly what you're going to be doing. And if it turns sour, keep it to the letter. Yeah. So that was the downside. But really, people are really marvellous, and just we met some wonderful people, and that's what spurred us on to stay as well after our difficulties. And
you did, and My French Platter is a complete story, beginning to end, of something. Yes. But then there's another book to come.
It is. My French Platter Replenished is with the editor now. And that's about when we move on from the difficulties and the English couple, another English couple we worked for. And what a stunning place that is. You wait till you see that. And that was everything we dreamed of. Yeah. And they were everything we dreamed of. And our French neighbours were amazing, and just our little encounters and who came to the house, and we went off exploring again. And yeah, you'll have to read that one, Lou.
Absolutely, I will. So we look forward to an event that you're going to do at our bookshop in Havelock North.
Thank you.
So what was the date of that? Can you remember? 20th of May.
Yeah.
So that'll be in Havelock North, and we were going to do like a 7 o'clock, were we? Or
6 p.m, so come in after work.
Yes. You have a glass of rosé, perhaps?
Yes, a little glass of rosé, and I'll come up with a little nibble of some sort. I'll make it French. So,
perfect.
So you're not starving before you get home for dinner.
Yeah. Oh, this has been lovely, and I think, yes, we're all hungry now. It's probably a bit early for a glass of wine, but somewhere around the world they'll be cracking open a bottle.
They sure will.
Yeah. So thanks ever so much, Annemarie.
Thank you, Laura. I've loved it. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Most welcome. And you've been listening to Made in New Zealand on Radio Kidnappers.